This is the first of four readings in the Woodstock Mayapple Writers Retreat for 2025. Our first reader is Helen Ruggieri. Helen is a retired professor of writing. She studied with William Stafford and has several books of poetry, most recently Blue Elegies, and a book of haibun and essays about nature, Camping in the Galaxy. She lives in Olean, New York, where the Tri-County Arts Council selected her for a Lifetime Achievement Award. She is a master gardener and has a black sash in Tai Chi. Helen Ruggieri.
I was fortunate enough to be in the early years of rock and roll. And I found this quote by Eddie Spaghetti, God bless him, what a name. And it's rock and roll keeps you in a constant state of juvenile delinquency. I lived in the Scranton area, and rock and roll tour buses used to come up every couple months, and everybody was there. Little Richard, Chuck Berry, all the superstars, even Della Reese. Do you remember when she was a singer? Anyway, this is called Shoo-Dooby Dooby Doo. And I got in an argument with somebody. They said, do you know what a doobie is? I said, yeah, it's a scat syllable. And they said, no, it's a big fat roach. I said, no. Anyway, this is Dooby Doo. It's like scat. Chuck Berry duck walks across the stage. We clap and scream. We're yelling Maybelline, rocking up on the balls of our feet. Nobody sits. Down front, they dance in the aisles, pushing and tugging in double time. Why can't you be true? About 10 rows down, the guy puts his arm around a dark-haired girl with spit curls. I could have spit curls if I wanted to go that trouble every day. Chuck holds his guitar over his head and shakes it at us. The beat disintegrates into ragged claps, cheers, hoots, yells, whistles. It's deafening. Frankie lowers his head to hers. Do you really use spit, he asks. She smiles with her teeth. The hell with it. The five satins run on stage, and their high peeling line arcs over the rows. In the still of the night, shoo-dooby dooby doo. And the anguish of never being loved glitters salty outside and inside at once. Rhythm on both sides of the skin. And if I shift to the right, I can see him. I won't love him anymore. If he wants spit curls, let him have spit curls. And I savor the anguish of it. And when the night stills in the dark parking lot behind the auditorium, I hear those echoing notes deep inside, under the bones of my hips. I catch sight of Frankie opening the door of his car for the girl. I call out, hey, spithead, and get in the car quick before they see who it is. That usually gets a laugh. That's what's so weird about Zoom.
We're trying to be quiet.
Well, this is the one they came to hear. So those teen years, you do a lot of growing up, getting seriously old. And this is a theoretical poem. It's not true. It's entirely fiction. It's called The Wild One. On Saturday night, he'd honk out front, and he'd drive up to the lookout, kiss me everywhere he could and where he shouldn't. He thought of me all day, he said, and he couldn't wait, speaking this new language, and I was hungry to hear, hungry to learn, naming every part that stayed in the dark, touching everywhere, everything. He wore a pink shirt and black pants, pegged so tight I don't know how I got them off. My good Angora sweater electrified itself, his hands breaking the bond between us. a blue fire in the dark of the car as it slipped over my hair. And he cut into me like a knife, fluff floating in the car, clinging to our dampness. We found that hidden place, the way we raced an accident. His explosion, tracing up the bones of my spine until surprise groaned out of my mouth from a long way off. Folded, oh, 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 as if gravity collected us and then slowly let us go.
I'm
Thank you.
sweating.
Don't wear Angora. Anyway, this is a poem, it kind of based on Vietnam War, which was like the end of childhood for many of us and forced us to become adults. And it's called Johnny Adams War. And it's a true story. This guy really did exist. He used to dance with parking meters on Main Street in front of Pizak's pool hall. And the guys would come out and clap and yell, "Go, Johnny, go, go, go." And he'd dance in a stiff-legged sprung rhythm until one of the guys would start humming Lady of Spain. And Johnny'd mutter an incomprehensible gurgle, which became a snarl. And he'd chase the singer, who'd stay just out of reach as he grabbed for him, his double-breasted suit jacket hanging from his thin shoulders, high-water pants slapping his ankles, and his slick-down hair escaping into a frenzy. They said he was shell-shocked during the war, all messed up, and they sent him home to live with his mother in an apartment over Kinback's furniture store. She kept watch, but sometimes he'd get out and start to dance. Back from Nam, those long-haired guys stood in front of the pool hall in old army green parkas, hanging out, their rhythm just off kilter, the new music a bit strange to them, and Johnny gone. "To Spain," I wisecracked, but no one laughed. They lost their sense of humor since they came home. Boy, I didn't set the timer, so it shut me off sometime. So that's kind of the end of childhood. And then I'm working on a series every year for the past lots. I've written a poem on my birthday. And I started a new series of the 80s. And so I'm going to read some of those to finish. Since most of you are poets, you'll appreciate this one. It's at the Book Barn at 84. In the poetry section of the Book Barn, I stand in front of the fan and I scan the titles all around me. My Life Is Here, Bishop, Bly, Cummings, Clifton, Frost, and Ferlinghetti, Hausman, Kerouac, Pound, Plath, Rukeyser, Stafford, Sexton, Snyder, Thomas, Williams. Studies, surveys, seminars, years and levels on my own in used bookstores, open mics, back rooms, reading, writing, my whole life. The canon, some old white punk set off to make us responsible. I scan down to the R's. Copy of my first book is here. I dust 5 years off the cover, put it back on the shelf. What is the time? Just to,
It's right on the computer on the lower.
yeah, but I don't know when I started.
Oh,
Okay, I'll go on. This is called the Rat Races, and we just sort of finished this in a workshop last week. We'd go to an open outdoor jazz concert from our favorite Oleans jazz group. She lives next door, actually, one of them, the keyboardist. And the Rat Races is a flashback to earlier rock and roll times. The Rat Races. The sun droops over the lawn, reaches for the wall of the school while the musicians set up. Olean's Jazz Quartet begins with a medley of New York songs. Memories caught in melodies, lurching back to a dance hall they call the Rat Races, back when girls still danced with each other. My friend Joe is dancing the slow jitterbug, maybe Night Train. Night Train. Anyway, head up, swiveling, each move in time, so elegant. At 18, I thought a lot about dancing, but never was I as effortless, as sophisticated as Joe. The group switches into a Chick Corea number. The sun slides behind the school. And this is another one. We go every year, so I have a whole passel of poems. This one is called Under the Ash Trees while listening to this jazz group. They have a name now. It's New York Standard Time. Sitting under the ash trees, there are leafy shades, shimmies of sun, highlighting gnats about their brief lives. Do they listen to the jazz four playing and the trombonist soloing at twilight? Or about when I last heard this number, young and hopeful about how my life would play. The sky darkens at the end of summer and the early planets appearing, a green corn moon, a halo for the good it does, reverberates our shadowy presence. The music explodes in the quiet night. The gnats disappear. The trombonist wipes his forehead. The stars punch holes in the dark. Thank you. Applause? No. Thank you.
Are you?
Nobody's here.
Everybody wants to
Yeah,
sleep.
they're here.
Thought y'all went to sleep.
We're all here. And Wendy is the other scheduled reader this evening. And I'm trying to figure out this
Is
silly.
she suicidal as I am?
All right, let's do this.
How is it that Leslie is always unmuted?
I'm trying to get Helen off the spotlight and you on the spotlight.
Great job, by the way.
Yes. Whoa. That's a lot of my face. Okay. Hi. I'm glad to be back.
Want to be introduced?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Wendy Taylor Carlisle lives and writes in the Arkansas Ozarks. She's the author of 4 books and 5 chapbooks, and her poems have been published most recently in About Place, Terrain, and are forthcoming in Heartland Review and South Florida Poetry Journal, and anthologized and attached to The Living World, a new eco-poetry anthology. And her website is www.wendytaylorcarlisle.com.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. I'm glad to be back here, even virtually. Thanks to Judy for calling us all together with her cyber shofar. And it's just good to see everybody's face. I hate to be the center of attention here because then I can't see everybody. And I like to see everybody. These are some poems written in strange times. And since most of them were written, times have gotten stranger. But when I lose heart, faced with the federal compounding of venality, stupidity, and cruelty, I remember the words of Catherine of Siena, all the way to heaven is heaven. So I'll begin with a poem we workshopped today. Thanks to Elizabeth, Joyce, Patricia, and Helen for their great help. This is actinic. I am melting actinic keratoses off my thighs with a poultice. They are dissolving like salted slugs. I am flushing rogue cells like nematodes from a subway tunnel. Saints preserve me, but not those ugly senile eruptions that interrupt my live forever fantasy of rising up, baby skin unencumbered. O Lord, and slick as leeches, soft as crawlers, dropped out of the slot at Papa's self-serve bait shop in Houghton Lake, Michigan. And from that height, this is a poem that I wrote for Naomi Shehabnai's son, Madison. He was 13. We were at a writing thing, and he was playing basketball. And my sons were young men then. And anyway, it's sort of for everybody's sons. It's called 13. The boy in the baggy shorts tosses back his forelock before he shoots. When the corners of the cracked court darken, he saunters in. 6 months ago, he was at home in her kitchen, milk chocolate on his chin, handicapping the bulls, describing the new kid in algebra. So much a part of her rooms, he was a chair, the thermometer, underfoot. Mom, it's hot. In July, he talked about baseball. Now he reads alone in the evenings. He has nothing to say. Before he goes out, the boy puts on his Spurs jersey. His mother has washed it until it is thin as milk. I'm reading this because it was such an interesting story that went with it. So I had this surprise email, must have been a month ago, asking if a poem published this summer in Two River View was available for use on a reed diffuser. Now, I once lived in Texas, so I didn't have to look up what a reed diffuser was. I knew. And I'll have a class after this if you want to know what one is. But why this pleasant woman, I took her to be a woman, there was no way to know, would write me from Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh about the availability of a poem for her reed diffuser was a puzzle. But as I usually do, I said yes. And directly the picture came from India of a lovely bottle adorned with this poem. I just don't know what to do with that information. And the poem is, Athena shows her third eyelid. Through the great horned owl cam, I watched Athena incubating her eggs. She stared forward, eyes at half-mast, and fluffed her neck feathers rhythmically until, apparently bored, she flicked her protective nictating membrane and turned away, sighed, turned back, rotated her head, hooted, and went back to staring. Athena looks wise and maternal with her constant, unwavering stare. But like the goddess, she is probably sizing us up, whatever she divines of us and our desires, and deploying that strategic eyelid to see if we are suitable for her next meal. The whole thing. Okay. This is one of a series of poems I wrote about being a redhead and about people who were redheads. This is about my hairdresser, Rhonda. She had a lot of redheaded clients. We called ourselves Rhonda's Redheads. So for those of you who are not familiar with the landscape in southern Arkansas, Louisiana, and South Texas, a dicky bird is one of those small oil wells, not the big ones, but the little ones that pop up and down, bump up and down. And this poem is called Wildcatting. The redhead is a fool for love. This September, it's a driller from Houston. She trails him east across a landscape etched with dicky birds. Their metal beaks reach down, bounce back, like the glass canary she set rocking in her grade school kitchen. The bird illustrated perpetual motion, moved by evaporation, its head feather drifting idly. The redhead stares from the pickup's cab while the steel birds pulse over the wells, rolls in from Texas in a reverie of lust, spinning to the Gulf, Beaumont, Baton Rouge, Biloxi. Ahead of her, over the hood, a crimson feather, pulls, dips, almost touches the water. And if you are a Southern woman, which I don't think any of you are, but if you are a Southern woman, you had an auntie or a mother or a neighbor that perhaps said this sort of thing to you, or something like this. This is an Arkansas sonnet. It's called Advice. By a lake shaped like a cartoon parrot, we practiced the simple art. You were 17 and I was 19, 2 years between us, and then I was 20. This was the first math. It was Arkansas in the 70s, and your aunt said, "Don't grin, honey. You don't want to work your skin like that." She told me, "One day you'll be dead, but until then, put on some lipstick. Wear you a cute skirt." And I don't know what they call it now, but in the old days, D&D was drunk and disorderly. And this poem is an homage to one of Fayetteville's favorite poetic sons. Any of you follow modern poetry know about C.D. Wright's sad love affair with Frank Stamford. And this is a poem after a poem of his. It's called Juke. If I was sober, I'd lift my head up and look at the mountain. But all I do is beat time to this jukebox and think about the sad vet tending bar. A crow comes down to bring me the usual bad news, as if she was my Carmelite, as if she was barefoot and I was shoes. Then she throws herself into a snowdrift, body in the snow, black as Frida Kahlo's eyebrow. I reckon my daughter's dead by the look in her eyes. All the good Merlot's gone. And I got passed over for the next best job and spent my final 5 at this bar where they picked me up last week for D&D. As soon as Dolly Parton's done singing, I'm getting out of here and going over to the Union 5 and dime to lay my good name down on a new red skirt. This is by a Midwestern photographer, I think Christopher Reen has this series of photographs called Family. This is an ekphrastic poem. When I saw this picture, I thought, oh my God, it's Arkansas. And the name of the picture and the name of the poem is Amber got her girls back, and now they live in the abandoned restaurant. In the picture, Amber is watching her girls bounce in that God-forsaken greasy spoon. They are jumping on a makeshift trampoline, an old mattress propped between 2 booth seats, its stuffing exposed. Yellow is cut fat in a surgery. Amber has her hand on her neck, stroking the place where Craig's hard fingers press down. The forest of green shamwood paneling backgrounds the oblivious toddlers, unaware of their rundown surroundings. Even at the moment of this photograph, they are fashioning stories of their own. The pink shirt with the red heart is the baby's favorite. She'll remember it beating. Her sister will give her the worn jeans and brown brogans. I always get the hand-me-downs, the baby will whine, and she will always be the baby, even after Amber presents her with a little brother. The sisters don't know it now, but they will in times of stress adopt the same bewildered look their mother wears and go searching for her version of those wicked fingers and verdant walls, which will prove to be the wild woods of their own grown-up adventures. And a moment for science, because my husband is a scientist. So this poem begins with a fact. This was true. Darwin was seasick the entire 5 years. On the Beagle, in crepuscular light, wearing his human face, Darwin made preparations for the epiphany. Wrapping himself in the grace of uncertainty, he kept a certain kind of clenched excitement in his notebooks, as if he knew they were holding a vision disproportionate to their size. Well, you know, it's that time of year, and I have a soft brain or something, and the seasons here always get me to writing. This is another Ozark sonnet. This is called Come and Gone. Big summer bugs thud against the curtainless windows, suicides for last light after the day has poured out its bucket of shine. Fireflies harry the still green leaves. O Lord of come and gone, let me be stunned by these final days of summer. As the sun recasts its slant, a breeze blows in, gravid with fall. Let me be capable of feeling this new season's chill promise. Let me be like the leaf, momentary in fire, content to be lost. I don't know how, yeah, I think we're all right. This is a family poem. This is called Hoots and Elegy. Sister passes, and we are called to grieve and foster, driving down through the South to Dash County and Hoots Barbecue, where we overhear a story about the sex addict coming home from treatment in California. And Mary Lou, you know Mary Lou. She says she wants to meet him, but it turns out not to be true, not the sex addict part anyway, so Mary Lou is all disappointed. And we speed past the Dizzy Dean rest area in Wiggins, driving hard through a 12-hour day to find a place to sleep where Sister lived in Mississippi. And everyone is gathered, all the uncles, all the brothers, everybody coming from everywhere, New York to Arkansas, and everybody old and shot and wondering who's next, because Sister was the first, and you can't help but wonder. Next day, the Baptist preacher preached a laid-back 45, restrained for a Baptist preacher. And after that, the food was church lady and fried chicken delish. And we headed out again by way of a late dinner at Hoots, where we overheard another conversation about a local lady who didn't get hired as a greeter at Walmart because customers couldn't get into the store past her big mouth chatter. And after that, we drove straight home and never talked again about the trip. This is from the new manuscript. And when we think about fairy tales and myths and Mother Goose, we think of them as being unchanging, but they change with our lives. We live now in the age of trad wives and bimbo feminism. And how could this poem in that age be anything other than it is? Briar Rose. It happened more than once in that time between birth control pills and AIDS. It happened over and over, although it's a struggle to remember any of them, those exquisite boys with their hands in the briars, the young ones with knives, the serious ones in ties, the princes in Levi's, all of them bringing their several and various gifts of flesh, their heat and beauty, their praise, from their castle to yours, the frightened ones carrying lack under their tongues like a lead penny. The empty ones come to fill you up with lies. The witchy ones, they're wooing like the 13th fairy's curse. All of them crowding the hedge around your heart with their shears, their crazy desire, and you cursed to sleep a while with them while you waited for something you had been promised was love. And this is a love poem of the oblique sort that I write for my husband. What can I tell you? Remember, I don't know if you did this, but I am profoundly old. And I remember when we used to go to the train tracks and put pennies on the tracks so the train would roll over them and then we would have lucky pennies, lucky flattened pennies. This is called For Luck, and it is another Arkansas sonnet. There is no new weather here, so close to the well of being. Wasp in the lampstand, tick in the beard, moon visible day and night. But I'm ready for tulips coming back. Grateful for muck boots, for a man who fixes things, for the hummingbirds, full feeders, for dead carpenter ants, for hoes and peppers and summer tomatoes. Above all, I give thanks for walking the train tracks with 2 new pennies, you and me, looking for luck. And then this last is an Ars Poetica. I do what I do. I'm a heart in a prison of bone. I am a needle and a ladle. I take my white horse, her hooves assessing each syllable of air. I take my little can of adventure and lift my head up from the wheel of crazy and not enough safety in making the paycheck and stretching the paycheck and hoping to live long enough for the government cheese. I do what I do, don't you? Whatever the dark and the kudzu don't take, I claim. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we did not get Patricia, so I guess I'm going to read tonight, and then hopefully Patricia will be available for us on Sunday.
She can't do anything on Sunday.
Well,
Judy, she just can't.
I know, but this was her night to read, so
Okay.
it is what it is, I guess. You've made me think of a few things, one of which is the only thing like a sonnet I ever wrote. And I guess it's a sonnet. It's called Red Car. And I am Judith Kerman. I established Mayapple Press in 1979 and this writer's retreat in 2003. And I am a retired college professor and administrator, 11 books of poetry, most recently Definitions by Fomite Press. I'll read a definition, although I can't find that copy of that book, so I'll read it from here. I also founded Earth's Daughters magazine, and Joyce is here, who is one of the inheritors of and maintainers of Mayapple, of Earth's Daughters. And I live in Woodstock, New York, where I'm on the planning board, where I'm the vice chair of the planning board, which gets really interesting sometimes, especially lately. This is the town of peace and love, not. Okay, so this is called Third Red Car, and it approximately is a sonnet. The first silver casting I ever made, a pendant crescent moon crossed by a cloud, looked more like a shark. My joke, the one who knew what it was, he would be my one true love. Like the servant at the city gate waiting for Rebecca, like standing at the corner watching for the guy driving the third red car. So do I believe in fated love? I don't know, but I'm used to being independent, and someone stole that silver casting. Spinster is a word that spits. But I still imagine I'll someday meet the man who would see it right away, a moon and a cloud conjoined in the night sky. Wendy, since your husband is a scientist, I want to read a couple of things that are from the new book that are very much the kind of thing I think that a scientist might appreciate. If I can find it. This is called orrery. And an orrery is a model solar system, for those who don't know. It begins with a quite long epigraph, but I love it, from Edward Tufte, his book called Envisioning Information. Although a triumph of gear ratios, the machines did commit a grave sin of information design, pridefully obvious presentation. By directing attention more toward miraculous contraptionary display than to planetary motion. Out by the reservoir, some evenings, I look south to see Venus, Mars, Jupiter all lined up, some fixed stars not quite as bright, then up to the river of our galaxy above. Imagine the sky as apparatus, the planets swinging each in its direction at its speed. The orrery invites us to see as God sees, to hold the whole thing in sight and mind, own it, set it on a desk. When they built it, no one knew about Pluto or the objects of the Oort cloud. Out so far, the sun is just another bright star. The toy solar system gets the revolutions right, but a true scale model would take up half of town. But when I was 12, I imagined infinity as a spaceship going on forever. It made me dizzy. When I told my Catholic friend, she clapped me on my shoulder, said I was religious after all.
You want a cough drop?
Somebody is unmuted. This is in some ways out of that aspect of myself. It's an attempt to write a prayer. It's called Psalm of Seeking. Oneness of all being, speaking to you feels like foolishness. Even saying you feels wrong. Between darkness and darkness, my life flickers. You beat in my pulse, shape the spiral of my genes, but I doubt that you hear. I look at the sky and feel how far the light has come. I stand on stone, knowing it was fire. The iron in the stone is the iron in my blood. I touch the rough bark of a tree, and it speaks, but only in leaves and branches. I want to read a few of the definition poems. I don't really think I invented this form, but I've made a lot of hay out of it because I did a whole book of these. But that book happened because I had some of those poems in this book. And someone who saw the book and looked at the manuscript said to me that I really needed to do a whole book of them. So I did, and he published it. I really wasn't expecting to read today, so I'm a little bit behind here. Okay, conundrum. Noun, 1. A riddle. How can it be that the self evaporates, rising like a wisp of steam off the body, diffused into air? One moment, a pudgy 2-year-old, I respond laughing to my young mother, lovely in her high cheekbones and auburn hair. The next, there is no one there. 2. You need to 2, a question or problem having only a conjectural answer. You need to interview the old folks. I recall tying saddle shoes, their white chalked with polished, but still smudged, the back seat of the old black Studebaker, falling downstairs, dreaming of falling downstairs. Too late now to ask what they remembered. Daddy working in the family store after school, Mom and her aunt, new immigrants, smiling at the camera, squinting into the autumn sun. 3, an intricate and difficult problem. Someone is required to identify the body before burial. A golem without the sacred name. In the open coffin, red lipstick my mother might have worn, white hair sprayed stiff, as she would never do, only the bones of her face, perhaps familiar. This was actually the first one I wrote, and I didn't know I was starting to do this. And it's called metaphora, which is actually a noun in Greek. Carriage, freightage, traction, traffic, a sign on the side of a moving van in Athens. Beds, bureaus, boxes of books. The young tomcat tracks birds in the branches, his haunches prepare for launch. I fold and float paper boats. And the guy who did the book of these poems, of these definition poems, pointed out to me that in this book about being a Jew in our time, I hadn't written anything about Israel. So I did. He didn't publish this book, but he published something else. He published the anthology, the definitions book. But this is the book I wrote about Israel, which unfortunately is still pertinent. Israel is a noun. 1, the national name of the Hebrew people. See also Jew, Israelite. 2, dreaming. 3, Jacob, after he dreamed. 4, an infected cut that pulls when I stretch, throbs at rest. 5, a settler state. 6, where we will be safe if all else fails. 7, what I wrestle with. 8, love and fear meeting on a desert road and making peace. 9, the land belongs to no one. We walk on it and draw lines. Mine, we declare in that toddler voice. 10, blood ties and blood. I want to read a few new things. They may or may not be finished. This is called The Serpent. I go back to the Bible a lot, which is very interesting for a totally not religious Jew. And this is called The Serpent. I glide over grit and pebbles, slide under the leaves, look up at the green world, unblinking. I see everything. I am the child of this place, and I know the place outside, the thorns and thistles. Why would humans want to be stupid? I think the tree spoke to them, as I do. I hope they learned what they needed. Why does the story say they were punished for wanting to be wise? And maybe 2 more. Nothing living is straight. My legs akimbo like the frame of a lute, although that curve is intentional. It holds music, silent until touched. The shame of being crooked, Straight is like arithmetic, a thing of the intellect. I'm so good at that. Analysis, anal and uncomfortable pun. Let's call it what it is. Scoliosis, the torn tendon, the kneecap 4 inches too high sticking up through the skin. I never knew kneecaps are lumpy. Once I was vain about my legs, my trim ankles, also my thighs back when I was not fat, but I did not know that. I remember one of my hips was higher than the other, even then. And this is even newer than that one and has not been workshopped, so it's called Her Hand. I've been taking this very interesting short course called Deep Body Poetry, and that one and this one are coming out of that. Her Hand. I do not want to talk about this. I do not want to talk. Her hand over my mouth. Don't fight me. Don't scream. Be quiet. Behave yourself. The torrent of words, the scrawl on scraps of paper, the fly alights, lays its egg in flesh where the maggot will crawl, make the flesh clean again, but hollowed. Stand up straight. Don't talk about this. Not now, not ever. So I will write about it instead. Wield my power, pain and silence, whatever body I live in, lie in passivity or falsehood. She always knew when I was lying. Thank you.